Hey everyone, it's MrAddOil again, helping you fight your today for your better tomorrow. So today we're gonna continue on the series, right, of why I am changing from software sales to software development. But for you, the value you're getting out of this is you're getting my feedback, my perspective on why I'm making this transition. So today we're gonna talk about the fourth argument on why you should consider software development. And that argument is because you're in more control of your success in software development. So in order for me to kind of make this argument, I'm going to start off with an analogy, right? I'm going to start off first with software sales, doing an analogy. So I'm a surfer also. I surfed San Francisco, Ocean Beach, pretty hard. I argue that if you can surf here in San Francisco, Ocean Beach, you can kind of surf it anywhere else and it'll be a lot easier. But again, I digress. But the argument or the analogy that I'm going to paint for software sales is like surfing, right? The surfer will be the salesperson, and it's just like the whole sales universe is like the ocean, right? So as a surfer or a salesperson, you do have some sort of control over yourself, right? As a surfer, you can practice a lot, get out into the waves, even though they're crappy on a bad day where it's just white water and chaos everywhere. You're surfing, you're building every muscle, your stamina, your endurance. That's something that you have control over, right? And as a salesperson, what you do have control over is your attitude, your salesmanship, your communication skills when trying to deflect or put the fire down on objections, take their initial objection of your prospect and turn that into a victory by getting more vital information out of them, by taking their concern and translating and converting it into a question back to them. Those are all like tactics and strategies that a salesperson can develop and build for themselves. So that's great. That's super awesome. Now, the big part of it, I mean, this is where the analogy, the imagery really hits, right? You're a salesperson or you're a surfer in this big ocean. Well, you're only seeing like a part of it. You're only seeing a part of it, but then there's like a big, vast ocean. And then there's a lot of it where it's out of your control, right? Like you can be like, okay, I'm gonna surf tomorrow morning. But you don't have control over the conditions of the wave, the day, or just in general when you're in the moment surfing. Like you don't have control over like, oh great, I'm in this spot, therefore I want the waves to come to me. No, it's like you have to paddle around, sense for the right wave to build up and catch them outside of the white water region for you to get a really good surf, right? Same thing in sales, right? The analogy of the ocean to sales would be, the ocean to sales will be like the marketplace, right? You can't control what your competitors are doing, or you can't control the flow of the market. And then if the market has a demand for a different product that your company doesn't offer, then you're gonna be like a surfer without any surf. So we're gonna start off this argument there, and then I'm gonna kind of talk about another funny analogy where I'll make an argument of why in software development, you have more control over success. So we're gonna get into the second part of the analogy this argument is about software development being a good career to explore because you're in arguably a better place to control your success, right? And an analogy that I got for software development is a lot like cooking, like making fried eggs, banana pancakes, stuff like that, cooking. And this is how I imagine this analogy. So people are always hungry, right? And then there's always a demand of people needing to eat. So that's why we have these professionals called chefs or people who cook to make food for people who are hungry. In a similar way, like I mentioned in one of my points, like the future is gonna just be super tech oriented, right? Where all of the businesses you see, the brick and mortar businesses you see now, they're gonna undergo a digital transformation and have some sort of e-business replica of themselves, right? So in the future, or even now into the future, there's going to be there's going to be a greater demand for the digital transformation of known businesses right now. And then you're seeing this, like Amazon will be a great example, where they're taking they're taking brick and mortar stores and they're making it online for everyone, right? In a similar way, there's going to be a bigger demand for this moving forward into the future. And software developers are like chefs. There's a demand for food of some sort, and you're going to cook it up. And just like cooking and this art of making food, I don't know what it is on the top of my head right now, but software, there's different flavors or different types of chefs, right? And then they are targeted, or they specialize in different parts of the day. Like there might be chefs who specialize in just making breakfast items, right? Or dishes. There might be chefs who are really good at creating lunch dishes or lunch products. And there might be chefs who are really good at making really great gourmet dinners. So there's already a demand for that, because that's just the natural ebb and flow of humanity, right? Everyone needs to eat, and then there's different periods of the day where people eat: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then there's always a demand for chefs, people who cook, to create food for people who are hungry. In a similar fashion, software developers, there's different type of flavors for different type of demands, software demands, right? Or application demands. Or it could be, there's a market for people wanting to interact with a product or interact on the web. Or there's a demand or a subset of people who want to experience an app or a software mobilely, right? There's a subset where they want their program or app to work on the desktop. So you can see how this analogy kind of fits together, hopefully, where as a software developer, you're producing or cooking up these different types of products, right? Software products, apps, like you would a chef who creates different dishes for different types, different time periods of the day: lunch, breakfast, dinner. And now we're gonna try to pull the threads together. It's a stretch of an analogy to make of trying to compare software development to cooking, right? I'm gonna try to pull the threads together. So you have more control in software development like you have in control in cooking, right? I got an idea. It's all coming together. So when you're planning a diet, right, it's better for you to cook at home, where you're in control of all the flavors that you're putting in, where you're putting in a lot of salt or like sugar, or if you're putting in a lot of protein, a lot of carbs, vegetables, those are more in your control, right? As a chef, cooking for yourself, you're in control. Let's say you have a goal. Your goal is to lose weight, build muscle. You are in total control of what goes into your mouth and the outputs that you put from your body, right? Like exercising. But we're gonna stick to the cooking analogy. So you have direct control of the food you order, the type of food that you cook, and how you cook it, so that it's designed or produced in a healthy way, so that when you eat it, you're not gonna get fat, but it's gonna help you towards your goal of losing weight. So same thing with software development, right? Like when you're tackling a problem, someone probably solved it before you. You Google it on Stack Overflow, GitHub. There's probably a better solution out there in the universe of software development that you can kind of leverage. They're like, at this point, they're basically like products that you pull off from the shelf in a grocery market, right? You take it and you put it into your own mix of ingredients for you to cook food for yourself. In that sense, this is where everything comes together, right? I'm pulling all the threads together, where software development, in this particular field and career, you have much more control over your success, because you're directly interacting with the ingredients, or you're directly interacting with the code base, the languages, the technologies to accomplish a goal. And it doesn't really depend on the market, right? Like the market could tell you, like, hey, we want, I don't know, pepperoni or ramen instead of of Indian food on a particular day. And then you can be like, great, I can go to the market, or I have some stuff left over, like ramen. Great, you can eat that. So there's, in software development, I'm probably gonna get shot or someone's gonna hate on me, a more experienced software developer. But I think in engineering, this is oversimplification, but there's only two types of problems, right? Problems that can actually be solved, that meaning that someone else solved it and you're just taking a piece of their solution and integrating it with the problem solution pair that's specific to you or to a client or a company. And there's another type of problem where you just can't fix it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to fix it. Like, theoretically, you can think of that solution, but when you really put it together, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it will either crash the system, or piggybacking off of the food analogy, like if you mix some sort of food ingredients together, instead of it being edible and healthy, it might be poison to you and kill you, right? So that was my long-winded explanation of how software development could be analogous to cooking. So for this particular argument, you self-qualify yourself as being someone who wants to be in control of their career if you resonate more with the analogy of software development being like cooking, where you have more control over your success. So if that speaks to you, then great. You won this argument for yourself, and you can take this argument and be like, I'm gonna invest a little bit more into learning more about software development.